Welcome back. Today we're talking about an all-time favourite of mine and an all-around banger, Tomb Raider 2013. Developed for the PS3 and Xbox 360 by Crystal Dynamics and published by Square Enix in 2013, with a later port for the Xbox One and PS4 coming in 2014, followed up much later by a 2024 PC version with a much greater roster of features. Tomb Raider 2013 is the 10th entry in the Tomb Raider series and a fully fledged reboot. I played it back on release back in 2013 and I was not expecting this game at all. The story is a lot darker and the gameplay is more action focused. The overall gameplay loop is very fun and very addictive. The game explores Lara's humble beginnings. The island of Matai is her first really big adventure. It's a great arc for us as a player to see Lara go from the fresh-faced explorer to a hardened survivor, battling everything from the elemental challenges of the island and all its dangerous inhabitants. Crystal Dynamics really nailed Lara's characterization on this one. The basic gameplay loop is a fairly standard 2010s third-person action. The gameplay world functions in a pseudo-hub area that allows for backtracking, followed by some secret hunting, and thrown in with the occasional linear story set piece for that cinematic thrill, with light survival and foraging mechanics. Having you search through areas for scrap to enhance Lara's weapons and all the other tools in her arsenal. It's probably obvious to you, the wise viewer, but I feel like Tomb Raider was drawing some inspiration from the Uncharted games in a roundabout full circle kind of way. Now, I may not know the most about the Tomb Raider series, but I feel like the Uncharted inspiration took Tomb Raider away from the slower, more puzzle-focused gameplay into a more action-packed experience, which worked in its favour incredibly well. But comparing the Uncharted games to this new Tomb Raider, the Uncharted games feel like a family-friendly action movie by comparison, I guess, which is what makes Tomb Raider feel a lot fresher, a lot more grounded, compared to the superhero feats of Nathan Drake. The game begins with young Lara setting off on her first adventure. We see her relationship with her friends and crewmates, setting up her friends and the senior archaeologist on the journey, Dr. Whitman, who really only cares about fame and fortune, as he's using the expedition to Matai to get him some stardom and good old-fashioned wealth. Lara and Dr. Whitman are seen arguing about what route the group should take as this massive storm rips through their boat and they are marooned on a nearby uncharted island. We awake to find that Lara has been separated from her surviving crew, as a mysterious figure knocks out Lara and drags her off to what looks like an underground ritual site. With an opening that reminded me of The Evil Within, the game comes out swinging with the brutal imagery of its setting, letting us, the player, know that this island ain't no Sunday picnic in the park. We get ourselves free by swinging from side to side, using the motion to get to a nearby fire and set our bonds alight. As Lara finally gets free, she falls into some steel rebar. This scene as a young man really shocked me. I immediately felt compelled to get Lara to safety and keep moving forward. A scuffle with a mysterious figure and we make our way through the cave into the game's first of many physics puzzles. The puzzle is fairly straightforward. I was quite stumped at first because I was expecting the usual hyper-convoluted video game puzzle, but no, this was straightforward and quite a pleasant surprise. Getting past the cheeky waterfall puzzle and surviving a collapsing cave, Lara emerges back outside to a fantastic shot of Lara overlooking the island and how desolate and remote it really is. Lara is in a world of trouble right now and she really knows it. For a game from 2013, even though I am playing the updated PC port, the original art style holds up exceptionally well. The gameplay is smooth and responsive, with the vocal performance by Camilla Luddington as Lara really knocking it out of the park. She makes Lara feel genuine and far more real. Her jumps, leaps, and fights really take it out of her. You feel every move Lara makes on screen, and that really gives weight to her character. Working our way closer to Lara's friends, we find a radio and some water. Lara gets her bearings and pushes forward. Lara has another flashback. This time, the crew's arguing about which way they should take to Matai. Lara wants to go with her gut and head east, but Whitman wants them to go west. Just as they have the end of this fight, it cuts to the storm, and them being wrecked on the island. As Lara snaps back to reality, oh, there goes gravity, we find the first bow of the game. The makeshift bow, we have to find Lara some food. The game is now teaching us its basic survival and hunting mechanics. The game really encourages the searching of bodies and animal carcasses for supplies. Always checking around is a great way to score extra supplies and experience to help you level up Lara. Skills ranging from combat focused stuff to skills to help Lara survive and explore. Working our way through more of the shantytown ruins, we finally make contact with some of the other survivors, which in turn encourages Lara and she pushes on to her friends. Little side note, I genuinely love the crudeness of your starting weapons. The crude axe and the crude bow really feel like they're made with whatever was on hand at the time, adding to the feeling of being really stranded and having to make the best of Lara's situation. We finally catch up with one of Lara's friends, Sam, who's sitting with a mysterious man named Matthias. Matthias seems rather high energy. Anyways, Lara passes out from exhaustion, and when she wakes up, both Matthias and Sam are gone. Lara does give chase, but gets caught in a bear trap and must fight off a pack of wolves with her brand new bow. Now it's at this point I realize that playing an action game with a mouse and keyboard really is quite OP. Tracking down the elusive Dr. Whitman and exploring some of the nearby ruins, we unlock the game's upgrade system for all of Lara's weapons. Collecting animal skins and scrap littered throughout the environment allows you to upgrade Lara's weapons, making them feel genuinely better in gameplay, which is an amazing touch. I really do love it when games will show you on the weapon model the changing of the weapon as the player upgrades it. Such a simple feature that really does go a long way. Thanks to Whitman's naivety, he and Lara get taken prisoner by some local thugs. Lara now has to escape from the mysteriously marauding men. The strange men are brutal against the surviving crew. Lara has to evade them to survive. Lara evades them but is eventually caught and has her first real fight of the game. A real sense of shock and fear in her voice, really letting us know that this was not easy for Lara. After escaping the village ambush, we come to a diary entry giving a little bit more information about Matthias. He's a very powerful figure on the island and is leading what is basically a cult. We catch up with Lara's wounded mentor Roth as he's fighting off a pack of wolves that have run off with his supplies that Lara could use to help treat his injuries. Chasing the wolves to a nearby village, getting us into the game's climbing mechanics as we chase down the wolves into their den to get back Roth's survival kit. Making our way up and into the cave, we get treated to another staple of the 2010s, QTEs. And let me tell ya, if you fail them, Lara is not in for a good time. Surviving close encounters of the wolf kind, Lara makes her way back to Roth, patches up his wounds. Roth and Lara now discuss their next move. Roth wants Lara to head to a nearby radio tower to get a signal for their emergency beacon on a wider frequency, in the vain hope that someone will come by and rescue them. Another axe upgrade, and we can now use it to climb rocks. Making it further up the mountain and finally stopping to rest at a local campsite, we get another flashback of the crew working on their show together, filming B-roll while they all sail to Matei. Lara is dragged back to reality to fight some of Matthias' goons. The bow combat in this game is buttery smooth. Bows in games are usually slow and tricky to master, but Lara's legendary bow skills in combat feels fast, fun, and fluid. Traversing more of the mountain, we come across a Japanese bunker from World War II, filled to the brim with gangs of Matthias' men. Lara is fighting through groups of Matthias' men when we come to the ruined comms tower. Lara gets on the radio with the group's technician Alex as he tells Lara the bad news. Lara can't get the signal working from there. She must now climb the tower, reset the receiver, and get their signal out that way. Emerging from the base and onto the beautiful snow-covered peaks, Lara must contend with more of Matthias' men. They start getting truly desperate, so Matthias' men throw a new challenge Lara's way, a riot shield enemy. Unfortunately for them, Lara makes quick work of him, teaching Matthias' men that Lara is a force to be reckoned with. We hear Matthias' men start to freak out about how much of a real threat that Lara's become, and we see from Lara slowly becoming more confident in her abilities and becoming more of a badass survivor in the process. Finally making it to the top of the radio tower, we now must climb to the very, very top. Some striking visuals and low angles to really highlight just how crazy this climb is. Lara thankfully manages to get the beacon working and get in contact with some potential help. But first, Lara needs to set a signal fire. Another side note is we see Lara talking herself through exactly what she needs to do. Feeling very relatable as you watch her get herself psyched up to go do some more insane and badass things to help out her friends. Lara successfully flags down a plane by setting nearby fuel tanks on fire. But those mysterious storms that plague the island knock it out of the sky. The plane crashes on the island, and in another incredible visual set piece, Lara dodges the wreckage of the plane as it is on fire and rolling down the hill after her. Lara, just casually dodging the falling wreck, heads down the mountain further to chase after and save the surviving pilots. But first, we need to navigate through a nearby village. Using the game's new rope arrow mechanic, the ability to pull certain boxes closer to you and to allowing you to swing off them if they have a bunch of ropes encompassing them, letting Lara finally move things she otherwise wouldn't be able to. Lara finally catches up with the first pilot, but unfortunately for her, Matthias's men have already beat her there and taken care of him. So now her and Roth have to regroup and go after the other pilot, the infamous Captain Jessup. Lara finally manages to track down the infamous Captain Jessup outside a nearby temple, overrun with both Matthias's men and the mysterious temple guardians, who we discover are having a very friendly altercation and absolutely destroying that poor temple. Lara gets KO'd once again as we wake to more of the brutal tribal scenes from earlier. We get more of a glimpse into the island's ritualistic horrors that we saw at the start of the game. We find some of the stories of survivors from the Japanese base in World War II and what this island does to anyone trapped on it. Making our way through the bunker and back out again, we find this game's beautiful shotgun. Lara finally manages to track down the tomb of the queen she's been chasing this whole time, Himiko. But before Lara has a chance to study more of her surroundings, more Matthias's men show up and clash with another one of those mysterious guardian figures from earlier. Demonic sounding men, you could say, clad in all samurai armor. As Lara makes her way up the side of the mountain, we find this room that we need to use the rope arrows from earlier to escape. Using the wind, you must carefully time the swinging of the ropes to get the bell in the center of the room to politely introduce itself to the timber blocking your way and create a way forward. After escaping that rope puzzle room, we now are treated to another beautiful set piece as Lara survives that very collapsing building. And I will say, Lara really is giving her chiropractor back home some work to do. Lara can survive some pretty tough falls and scrapes. The game's linear set pieces always feel varied and exciting despite being mechanically similar. Situations are always different. From dodging dangerous rivers to parachuting out of a falling plane and dodging incoming trees, the action always feels new, exciting, despite being fairly simple gameplay. Somehow surviving all of that craziness, Lara makes her way to a nearby shantytown as she chases down a nearby downed chopper, looking for some bandages to patch her more serious wounds she took in that tumble. As Lara makes her way through the shantytown, more of Matthias's goons show their ugly faces. We're treated to another crazy scene as Lara patches those wounds with a lighter she finds in the chopper. She uses a flame and an arrowhead to cauterize her wound. No magical health kits here, good old whatever works kind of thing. After leaving the chopper, Lara is foolishly ambushed by more of Matthias's men. Now I say foolish because they haven't yet realized that Lara is so good in a fight, she must be a distant relative of the Doomslayer. We catch up with Lara's friend Grim being chased by more of Matthias's men. They're now using dynamite against her and Grim. Man, these guys really don't like Lara. The fight really puts your dodging skills to the test, dealing with incoming fire, dynamite, and melee enemies. Lara makes quick work of the ambush with the fight. The fight ruins our way up to Grim, so now we have to make our way around to him using the island's cargo hauling system, creatively produced by Matthias's troopers. We finally catch up to Grim, but are unable to save him. So rather than let both himself and Lara get taken by Matthias's men, Grim sacrifices himself, giving Lara time to escape. Now After all that, Lara is forced back onto the main path, heading for the temple. Lara gets a supportive call from Roth. Don't feel sorry for Grim Lara, make his sacrifice count. Man, Roth throws out some bangers sometimes. As Lara inches ever closer to the main Solari temple, we now must cross a massive bridge patrolled by Matthias' men. Ross covers us with his rifle as we make our way across. Dodging both men shooting at us and shooting at Roth, Lara makes her way to the other side. We now make our way deeper into the caverns of the nearby temple. We find Sam in the temple about to be Temple of Doomed by Matthias' men. Luckily, Lara manages to interrupt the ceremony, but Lara is taken prisoner. This definitely is a part of a larger strategy from Lara, as a few Matthias' pesky cult members really is no trouble for her. Lara escapes capture, but falls into the cult's torture pits, facing up against more of the men the cult has corrupted, who seem mad and very hostile. Using Lara's new flame arrow ability, we exploit a leaking gas vein in the cell, and make our way up and out, clashing with more Matthias' men here and there, using the gas leaks of the cavern to our advantage. Pushing our way through more of the caves, we finally come across Lara's friends, who are held captive in a wrecked plane over a conveniently placed lava pit. Using the gas leaks and Lara's flaming arrows, we manage to push the cage over and onto the nearby embankment, allowing them to escape. They will back Lara up, but first they have to go after Sam and Dr. Whitman. Lara finally makes her way to the hordes of Matthias' men, and back upstairs to the Solari fortress, which, thanks to Lara cooking with gas earlier, is now falling apart due to its unstable explosions. Combat is about dodging its fires as much as the cult. Now we find the infamous Dr. Whitman upstairs, but I feel he may have gotten a little bit lost in the sauce with the Solari. Somehow he walks among them, believing them to be the salvation to his show and his fame and fortune through various means. We find Sam in a nearby chamber and get our gear back, but are only reunited with Sam briefly as Matthias and his guards intervene and push Lara back. As Lara chases down Matthias and Sam through another local shantytown, dealing with absolute swarms of Matthias' men who are now packing serious firepower, dodging both ball turrets, swinging shack to shack, inching ever closer for that final takedown. Now taking down the turrets, we get another great scene as Lara is becoming more of an experienced survivor, less of the frightened girl she was at the start of the game. You can't stop me, you bastards, kinda real vibe. Lara chases down the nearby rescue helicopter to link up with her friends, but Matthias, the absolute madman, has started shelling the approach to that tower that the chopper is on. We get another amazing visual set piece as Lara is treated to yet another collapsing building as she makes her way after the chopper and does a good old-fashioned leap for it. Thanks to the island's storm powers, a pretty gnarly scene plays out. The rescue chopper crashes, and Roth pulls Lara from the wreckage, but they've quickly become overwhelmed by Matthias' men. Roth decides to pay the ultimate price for Lara. This is a pretty heavy scene. The game does a real fantastic job of setting up their relationship and camaraderie, so that when Roth finally decides to make that ultimate sacrifice, you really do feel it. Lara shares a moment with the man who's taught us so much, and she finds within herself a real determination to see all of this chaos through. Lara makes her way through forests and nearby riverbeds, heading down to the beach to link up with her friends who are under attack for some of Matthias' men, while trying to repair a boat that they can make and take to salvation, searching some nearby rigs for a pulley system to help them with their boat repairs. A little hop, skip and a jump, and we make our way back to the group. And we catch a little argument between the good Dr. Whitman. Lo and behold, as we all suspected, he made a deal with the cult to further his own show as a desperate hope for both riches and fame. I mean, I understand the guy is desperate, but selling your friends out like that, it's a no from me, mate. After Lara comes to a rather tense piece with Dr. Whitman, she sets off again to help out Alex, who has gotten himself stuck in a nearby ship looking for some heavy-duty tools. With another visually cool section as we make our way through old bunkers and ship graveyards, past old wrecks and fortifications. We finally get to where Matthias' men are, as they cut and strip what's left of the torrents. This really does not look like a good situation, so Lara really needs to get after Alex. As Lara is making her final desperate approach to the torrents, she explores a Japanese coastal battery from World War II, or what's left of it. Towards the other end of the battery, we get into a little scrap with some more of the coal in a little storage warehouse. Lara was having a good day, so she decided to put her bow away and use her AK. a tried and true sign that things really are going your way. I take a rather surprising death as I misjudge a jump and get completely smoked. The cover system in this 12-year-old game really impressed me. How incredibly fluid it can be. Lara has a ton of different animations for different types of cover, using all different kinds of weapons. It was at this point that I realized a lot of Matthias' men really aren't great marksmen, as I was taking a ton of open risks and getting away with it quite easily. As Lara makes her way towards Alex admits to Lara that he admires her courage, bravery and resourcefulness. As we finally make our way to the torrents, we are immediately treated to a bit of bare-knuckle boxing match with a massively armored giant. Another great test of your dodging, and Lara takes him down, easy enough. Lara finally makes her way below decks of the torrents, and it is in really bad shape. But amazingly, Matthias' men have managed to save both halves. I really don't know how a gang of stranded dudes pulls off this, but it's impressive stuff. Alex, not being as skillful as Lara, is trapped in the workshop below decks, so Lara has to desperately rush off after him. Making our way to the workshop to find Alex trapped, and I am once again a victim of simplicity as it takes me far too long to solve this simple alignment puzzle. Using Lara's body weight and the new tool we've just gotten our hands on, the rope ascender, to move a service gondola in position so that Lara can climb up and clear the blockage leading to Alex. Lara finally catches up with a severely wounded Alex, and they are almost immediately ambushed by Matthias' men. Alex finally admits that he has a bit of a crush on Lara, and also realizing that their situation is far beyond hopeless, another person of Lara's crew sacrifices themselves for her, scoring himself a kiss. So you could say that Alex did get to be the hero in his own story after all, eh? In a pretty powerful scene, Lara uses the rope ascender to escape the torrents, proclaiming that she will not let another person die for her. Lara links up with her squad, who are under attack by more of Matthias' goons, but they're no problem for Lara as she makes quick work of them. The group are agitated at Lara, blaming her for what happened to Alex back on the torrents, despite it not really being her fault. As you can probably tell by now, the strain of the island really is taking its toll on both Lara and her surviving friends, as they now must decide what to do with the boat. Most of them, rightfully so, just want to leave the island behind, but Lara manages to sell them on the idea that if they really have a true hope of escape, they need to solve the riddle of the storms inland. Through persuasion and a little support from her buddy Jonah, the group decides to take Lara's point of view, give her the boat as they all head inland to go after the reason behind the storms. Now very determined and resolute, Lara makes her way to the mysterious research base inland. Coming to another interesting puzzle, you have to use the different floors of the elevator to expose the gears of the jammed elevator, slowly release the platform. Now here is a puzzle I got fairly quickly. It's video gamey compared to the glaringly obvious puzzles from earlier. Using the jammed elevator to break us away into the facility, I don't know why these guys of Matthias don't learn the lesson by now. Fortress Lara gets ambushed by another gang of Matthias' men and absolutely mops the floor with them. We hear that pesky Dr. Whitman has taken Sam back to Matthias in his own cracked way, maybe to help or to further his own ambitions. Lara and her friends now have a clear way to go, and they set off for Himiko's ritual chamber to save both Sam and for Lara to answer the question, is she strong enough to save both herself and her friends and make it off the island? Now our next stop on the chasing down Matthias train is a nearby cave system. Among the caves we find a couple of journal entries showing off just how desperate and committed to the bit Dr. Whitman is, losing both his wife and the very last of his money to finance this exhibition, his last real shot at fame and wealth. The game's way of really telling us what we already knew at this point. Whitman is a desperate man who will do anything to help himself and his future. As Lara finds her way deeper into Himiko's temple, she comes face to face with a ton of Himiko's storm guard, which appear to be some sort of demonic samurai. She has to sneak past what is basically a small army of them. As she's finally detected by the storm guard, she makes her way back outside, and we go toe to toe with them in a scene which is, to be honest, straight out of Dynasty Warriors. Lara charges their formations under cover of arrows, and a horde of enemies beelining it for Lara. Friggin' cool, man. Making our way through the storm guard and all their traps, we finally have made it all the way to the very belly of Himiko's temple. As Lara finds the entry to the heart of the temple, she's greeted to a bloody mess. Piles of bones and bodies, Who knows what horrors the Stormguard have done over the years in service of Himiko. It certainly wasn't pleasant to anyone who has or has ever been against Himiko, that's for certain. Using more of Lara's rope arrows to break into the locked doors of the ritual chamber, inside we discover that Matthias is planning to use Sam as a vessel for the soul of Queen Himiko, in the vain hope to appease her spirit and let them go from the island. As Lara makes her way up the final tower, chasing after both Matthias and Sam, having to deal with heavy winds, the cracking of thunder, as the very temple that Matthias and all that came before him crumbles in front of her. The visuals of the final climb are amazing. Lots of low shots of the scale, showing off what Lara is climbing, the massive heights. The sweeping winds and the severe storms, showing off just how much danger Lara is in. That, coupled with the fact the music, makes this scene even more intense for one great final climb. We find both Sam and Matthias locked in some kind of nightmarish ritual in an attempt to transfer Himiko's soul into Sam. They are protected by some kind of powerful energy barrier. Now Lara must make her way around the outside of the temple, looking for a weakness in the field and finally getting her shot. Now we come to a drawbridge right before Himiko and Sam, but are stopped by a massive Storm Guardian, a surprisingly tough boss fight, who just happens to be a large melee enemy that you have fought previously before, but he now has multiple phases, spawns and weaker versions of himself, making him one surprisingly challenging fight. Finally catching up with both Matthias and Sam. Matthias' final fight is peak 2010s, as it is a good old-fashioned QTE fight. Defeating Matthias and breaking the spell holding in Sam, Lara can now triumphantly return to the boat and her friends. A rather solid ending. Lara laments the loss of the past and craves the next adventure as both her and her friends sail off into the sunset. Now it does go without saying, this game is friggin' amazing. If you like third-person action games with a ton of action and good combat with good characterization, Tomb Raider 2013 is a very easy recommend. Thank you for sticking around, I really do appreciate it, and have yourself a great night.